In the aftermath of Elon Musk's announcement that he has officially launched a third party called the America Party, it looks like Donald Trump is taking the news about as well as you might imagine. He took to Truth Social writing, "I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks. He even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact that they have never succeeded in the United States. The system seems not designed for them. The one thing third parties are good for is the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos, and we have enough of that with the radical left Democrats, who have lost their confidence and their minds. Republicans, on the other hand, are a smooth-running machine that just passed the biggest bill of its kind in the history of our country. It is a great bill, but unfortunately for Elon, it eliminates the ridiculous electric vehicle mandate, which would have forced everyone to buy an electric car in a short period of time. I have been strongly opposed to that from the very beginning. People are now allowed to buy whatever they want, gasoline-powered hybrids, which are doing very well, or new technologies as they come about. No more EV mandate. I have campaigned on this for 2 years, and quite honestly, when Elon gave me his total and unquestioned endorsement, I asked him whether or not he knew I was going to terminate the EV mandate. It was in every speech I made and in every conversation I had. He said he had no problem with that. I was very surprised. Additionally, Elon asked that one of his close friends run NASA, and while I thought his friend was very good, I was surprised to learn that he was a blue-blooded Democrat who had never contributed to a Republican before. Elon probably was also. I also thought it inappropriate that a very close friend of Elon, who was in the space business, run NASA when NASA is such a big part of Elon's corporate life. My number one charge is to protect the American public." And this was after Trump came out earlier today saying this.
Your reaction to Elon Musk starting a third party?
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Now, strategically speaking, it would probably be in Donald Trump's best interest to reconcile with Elon, considering the America Party would almost certainly pull a hell of a lot more support from Republicans than Democrats. Remember, you are talking about a political party started by a guy who just spent over $250 million to elect solely Republicans, including Trump. He appeared alongside Donald Trump nearly every day for months. He worked in Donald Trump's White House. He bought Twitter and amplified only right-wing accounts while suppressing the reach of left-wing accounts. According to Pew, Musk has 73% favorability among Republicans and 12% favorability among Democrats. So when this guy launches a political project, who do you think this is going to appeal to more? And yet, rather than reconcile, Trump decides that publicly lashing out is a better idea. It's almost like the leader of the Republican Party being a thin-skinned egomaniac might have some downsides after all. And so now, we are one day closer to Elon doing whatever it is he plans to do to watch his grand plan come to fruition. And he's already spelled out what that would look like. He wrote, quote, "One way to execute on this would be to laser focus on just 2 or 3 Senate seats and 8 to 10 House districts. Given the razor-thin legislative margins, that would be enough to serve as the deciding vote on contentious laws, ensuring that they serve the true will of the people." In other words, he sees the leverage that people like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema used to have, the leverage that Lisa Murkowski has right now, and he wants to replicate that. And let's think for a moment why Elon himself might want to lead a political party where his minions have all the leverage. What could Elon Musk possibly want when it comes to the government? Maybe we can find some answers in how he comported himself when he was last in government. Remember when he claimed that he wanted to be some champion against waste, fraud, and abuse? And yet, instead of going after the principal purveyor of waste, fraud, and abuse, the Pentagon, which has failed 7 straight audits, he went after USAID, which accounts for all of 0.5% of the budget, but which was investigating him and Starlink. He went after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, which is actually a net positive for American consumers who've been defrauded by banks and predatory financial institutions, but which would have had oversight into X's payment processor. He and Trump went after the Department of Labor, the NLRB, the EPA, the FEC, the Department of Interior, the SEC, the DOJ, all agencies that had oversight of him and his companies, all agencies that were, in some capacity, regulating or fining Elon Musk, and were in turn neutered. That is what he did with his time in government. In other words, he had the perfect opportunity to actually eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, and instead squander that opportunity by helping himself and his bottom line. He's not some champion for fiscal conservatism, fiscal responsibility. He is a greedy kleptocrat who looked out for literally one person when he had free reign of government. Elon hides behind this mantle of cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, but all he did with his power was traffic in more of it. Deal himself more contracts, fire the people who regulated him, and refuse to touch any of the actual waste that he's complaining about. He is the exact thing that he claimed to want to eliminate. So if Elon suddenly runs a political party, do you really think he'd comport himself the way that he claims he wants to? I think that question answers itself. But here's what's especially funny about all of this. Donald Trump himself used the tactic of threatening third-party runs in the past. He did it in 2015, threatening to run as a third-party candidate if the RNC treated him unfairly, as he put it. He did it again in 2022, threatening to sink his own party, the Republicans, in 2024 if they didn't back him. So I gotta say, it sure is rich watching Donald Trump melt down that someone is behaving exactly like him. Because he'll present himself as the victim here, as he always does, ignoring the fact that Elon is doing quite literally the same thing that he himself has done numerous times in the past. And I want to make one more point, this one specifically to folks on the left side of the aisle. You might have heard me say this before, but it is 100% worth repeating. My only message to anybody in the pro-democracy coalition out there is to remember that you gain power only one way in government, and that is by getting more votes than the other side. If they want to splinter the Republican Party into two parties, the GOP and the America Party, let them. Do not be lured in by Elon's promises of some great centrist party. Elon is not a centrist. He is a far-right technocrat whose sole goal in life is to make himself richer and more powerful and more influential. He doesn't want some big center party. He wants to be the most powerful person on earth. Do not be fooled by his rhetoric because we've been here before. He's already proven as much. In other words, if you are part of the pro-democracy coalition, now is not the time to splinter off. Take the opportunity, vote as one bloc, gain power, and exercise that power to the fullest extent. That means we pass laws to combat climate change, to protect reproductive rights, to expand healthcare, to bolster unions, to combat gun violence, and to shore up our democracy. And look, I want to be clear that I understand the allure of a new party. I get that Washington, D.C. is very often looked at as being completely broken, but the smart way to go about this is to think of what puts us in the best position to actually fix it. The biggest coalition is the only way to do that, and the only way to get that coalition is to stay together. It's also worth remembering here that A, Elon Musk is a bad actor, and more power or influence in his hands will be as bad as Trump, and B, no political party is perfect, nor will it ever be, but it's not supposed to be. Our parties are nothing more than vehicles for power, and the right understands that. Trump does, Elon does, Republicans do. We have to remember that a unified political party is the only vehicle that we have to defeat the right, imperfect though it may be. And that's not to say that we can't demand better representatives and better senators in the Democratic Party, because we should, and in fact, we must. We need change makers, we need communicators, we need fighters. But the reality is that a unified front is the only viable option we have to defeat Trumpism and authoritarianism and Muskism as well. If they want to splinter off at the hands of a bunch of power-hungry narcissists looking out for themselves and their own influence, let them. But our job is to get back in the business of winning, and that happens by growing our tent, not shrinking it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.